They kept saying runaway slaves and all that. My ideas in a way that make sense to me. Some things are kind of foggy, so I'm gonna need you guys' help. If you see anything that I may be getting wrong, or you see me stumbling, I'm asking for help. I'm like, hey man, that's a question mark for me. You guys can help clear it up in the comment or whatever. It'll be greatly appreciated. All right, so let's continue with my line of thought. So now we got these refugees, right? And then you have a synonym of refugee is a runaway. So you know how they kept saying runaway slaves and all this type of stuff. I never referenced equated runaway with refugee. To me, that's interesting when you think about a runaway. Now, when Martin Luther King said we were exiled in our own land, you see refugee is also representing exile. So that's basically why I named the title, about exile and all that type of stuff, right? But understand that the words are being used interchangeably. Refugee, exile, runaway. And it don't necessarily have to be because you're slave, you're runaway slave, nothing like that, even though that's the picture that's being painted, of course. But there's a lot more to it than that. So the origin of the word refugee from 17th century, 1600s, from French. Refugee, gone in search of refuge. Okay? So it's a person that's gone in search of refuge. Now, let's check out refuge. The word refuge is a condition of being safe or sheltered from pursuit, danger, or trouble. Pursuit, danger, or trouble. Now, we know during these times there was starting to be an attack on the land. There were I would say anywhere between 4 to 5, or maybe even 10 million immigrants coming in during this time. In between, say, from the 50s to the 60s or something like that. But anyway, there was a major influx of people coming into this America. So keeping all that in mind, understanding that there weren't that many immigrants here at that time. Okay, so who were the people here? But let's continue. Good. Let's see. So now it says a refugee, refuge is something providing shelter, right? Isn't that what the Army said? The Union said, come across the line, we'll give you freedom, everything will be good, we're going to feed you, so on and so forth, which when you go into that story, you find that they only supported some of the shelter and stuff like that. But of course, the people from the South, the Negroes from the South were rich. So we knew how to handle our own business. So that's what we did. We just got busy. And we already had a bunch of estate still in the South. And of course, we entrusted it to them to safe keep it for us, because they come with all that God this and God that, all that good talk, missionary talk, acting like they're trying to help us so much. And so we put our trust in these people. That's just what happened, especially when they used a lot of our people to go along with the program. But anyway, as I will be briefly touching on all this stuff, so y'all see what I mean. Okay, so when we're dealing with refuge again, get to some of these synonyms. We're talking about a shelter, protection, safety, security, asylum, sanctuary, preservation, safekeeping, haven, safe haven, so on and so forth, right? Hiding place, foxhole. So it's also an institution providing safe accommodation for women who have suffered violence from a spouse or partner. Okay, that really don't have anything to do with what I'm talking about. Okay, so it's flee back or back flee. However they go, right? But we get what's going on. So now, this article is dealing with refugees during the Civil War. Okay, refugees during the Civil War. This is from the Encyclopedia Virginia.org. Okay, let me make that smaller. I'm gonna read a little bit of this so we can understand what's going on. All right, trying to concrete this thing, man. Like I said, it's pretty early in the morning for me. To get up and get to my business in the morning, but I might go ahead and sacrifice a little time to lay it all the way out. All right. But this is the summary right here they give us. Again, about the refugees during the Civil War. First of all, like I say now, they make it seem as if they were slaves running, trying to be freed. Remember? All right, so let's go. They say Virginia possessed the largest number of the estimated 200,000 Southerners who fled their homes, right? 200,000 Southerners did what? Fled their homes during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. There were three broad classes of refugees in Virginia during the war: slaves, white Unionists, and other descendants. Okay, slaves. What they're trying to say, there's us. White Unionists, those are like the traders, supposedly, and other descendants. So they're basically trying to call all these people descendants, including the slaves. All right. So now it says, it said and Confederates, right? And Confederates. Remember in the last video I was saying, man, I think it's a different set of Confederates that was against the grain, and that's these Confederates that was going against the Confederate, their own people, right? So it say, although historians have tended to focus on Confederates, these three groups shared some of the same dislocations, right? They shared some of the same dislocations, but their experiences of the war differed dramatically. So there's three different groups going through three different situations they're trying to say. They say white and black Unionists and descendants or dissidents who fled to Union lines contributed to the Northern War effort. Okay. Now, notice it didn't mention the Confederates on this part. It said Confederates, in contrast, bitterly resented the Union invaders, but the hardships, they resented the Union invaders. But excuse me, y'all. But the hardships of refugee life exacerbated feelings of war weariness. This, combined with social division inside Virginia, factored into Confederate defeat. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So it said, following the controversial lead of Benjamin F. Butler at Fort Monroe, Virginia, in 1861, Union official designated slaves who escaped to Union lines as contraband. Understand that, contraband. Refusing to return them to their owner, okay, despite the provisions of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. So I should have had looked into that. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. So it's like, who are the slaves? Who does this apply to, right? It's the term contraband was a mere political convenience. However, these African Americans are more properly understood as a class of refugees. African Americans, nope, 1988, Jesse Jackson, all right, was not used at that time. So, it says, take for instance, the case of John M. Washington, a slave from Fredericksburg, Virginia, hired out in the Confederate capital of Richmond. All right. You know how you get your job? You hire yourself out. That's what it's called. So he was hired out. It said Washington heard rumors of slaves using the war as a means to freedom. Right? So Washington heard rumors of slaves using the war as a means to freedom. In his 1872 memoir, Memories of the Past, he wrote that by late in 1861, it had become a well-known fact that slaves was daily making their escape into the Union lines. Washington kept abreast of war news and plotted to place himself closer to or in the path of the Army of the Potomac. Washington's employer in Richmond allowed him to travel home to Fredericksburg in December 1861 and expected him back after the Christmas holiday. Once in Fredericksburg, Washington hired himself out of what did it say? It said Washington hired himself out as a steward, a bartender. Hold on, let me make this small. I think I'm missing words here. What did it say now? It said Washington hired himself out as a steward and bartender, and his employee planned to take him further into the Confederate interior. His employer, right? Took him further into the Confederate interior. He hired himself out as a steward and a bartender. They say, I made them believe I was most anxious to go, Washington wrote. In fact, I made them believe that I was terribly afraid of the Yankees anyway. So they basically trying to say that Washington finessed the Confederates. It say, my master was well satisfied in my apparent disposition and told me I was quite right. For if the Yankees were to catch me, they would send me to Cuba or cut my hands off or otherwise maltreat me. Hey, P game now. He said if you get caught up, what would they send him to? Cuba. For the ones who don't understand, they were sending people from here to there. It's a little proof right here. And if Washington was supposedly white, that would make it even worse, right? Even though speculations may not have been a white guy, but okay. But we know he wasn't white anyway. Probably wasn't a pale skinned European. Probably was a. Let me hush. That ain't got nothing to do with us. Yeah, I want y'all to catch that point about the Cuba part. I'm just trying to file it right quick. Like J, like I said early in the morning, lay it down. This here. Mm-hmm. Did y'all peeping that though? Did y'all continue reading what this is saying? Let's get to it. Where the Cooper? Let's see. Pretty good. My bad, y'all. Lost the place. There we go. It said Cuba right here, right down here. It said Cuba will cut my hands off or otherwise maltreat me. It said, I, of course, pretended to believe all they said, but knew they were lying all the while. Washington secretly resolved to remain in Fredericksburg until his employer prepared to leave, then conceal himself and await the arrival of the Union Army. Washington calculations paid off when Union troops arrived in April 1862. It said after serving as an Army guide, he eventually found freedom in Washington, D.C. Blacks who escaped the Union lines also found employment with the Union Army as carpenters, masons, teamsters, blacksmiths, laborers, nurses, and washers. Hey, big game, y'all. They went down there, Washington infiltrated on some snake oil shit. Saying there must be one of their people or something with the Washington name, probably stole somebody's name and all that. Ain't no telling what happened, right? But finesse them, got the information on how they rock and how they do things, traded on them with the Union Army when they came, burnt up all this stuff, killed, everything they had going on. Then they had to go up to the north. Mm-hmm. So they went up to the north to find jobs. What they say? To find jobs. Modern day slavery. Whether they transferred them into bondage. That's how the Negroes was enslaved right there. That's one part of it. Yeah, came down, messed up all our infrastructure. Put us in desolate situations. Bullied and everything else to force people to seek refuge. And so yeah, that was going on. And so you see how they say they had to go find employment. So that means they wasn't working for nobody else and all that at first. But you see how they try to run them as slaves. But most of us didn't know. When you look at the word family, the etymology of the word family means servant and slave and all that. Then we know, on the other hand, slaves also mean Slavic people, the pale-skinned Slavic folks. So it's like a play on words, how they doing it, right? So, yeah. So let's keep going, but understand that now. They're the ones that are building everything. So where they get the information from, how they learn how to do all this. They say, when white Northerners objected to the influx of Black refugees, right? White Northerners. See, then you got to be real careful with these people because white, politically, socially, can also mean Negroes. You got to understand that. White is a status. You're European, you're considered white. All right. All right. And then it said, objected to the influx of Black refugees, military officials relocated thousands to so-called contraband camps in occupied Virginia, including the abandoned Arlington estate of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. So the Arlington estate was ran by Robert E. Lee and his wife, is what it sounds like. They say, and Mary Custis Lee. They say Black refugees in these camps had difficulty securing adequate housing, food, clothing, and medicine, which sometimes resulted in starvation, disease, and death. Low wages and poor treatment led to disputes between Black refugees and military officials. Because, man, that's where this where it started. This is where they kind of got them at. Got us at. The detachment. A lot of people was caught right up in there because a lot of us can't find any information on our people after that time. I mean, before that time. So it lets you know they were displaced, man. Not that they were no slaves. Now they got rid of the information, got rid of the records. Started giving us that education and all that. And the generation, like them little kids you see right there, by the time they got old, they vaguely knew what was going on. A lot of their people was here going there. You see how they were refugees. So, like I just said, I always get an example about people from New Orleans, man. You know what I mean? How everybody ended up everywhere around the country once they split up. So it's kind of like that. And just think about it way back then, So, it's probably a lot more difficult to communicate and get connected with everybody because everything was about postmaster with mail and all that back then. Man, So that's why a lot of us probably can and don't even know it, or we do know it. We're like, hey, we look in the records and we're like, yeah, we used to live in this place and that place. But they might be living in California now, might be in Texas, but really from Georgia and Alabama, or really from New York, and you really in, you know what I'm saying? The traveling, man. All right. So they were just keep going. See, they say self-emancipated blacks behind Union line. But undo it, no Abraham Lincoln. Whole different type of emancipation that was going on. It said wages and poor treatment led to disputes between blacks. Let me put this up. Have that last little bit smoke. Might have to be forced to go get me a cigar pack. I'll put that one laying around. I just don't see. Hold on, y'all. My dog got the bucket. Snap. All right. So it said sometimes resulted in starvation, disease, and death. Low wages and poor treatment led to disputes between black refugees and military officials. All right. So it said in these camps, however, refugees found education and freedom. Now, it don't sound like no slaves to me. And these people supposed to be so-called pale skin, the soldiers and all that there. You know what I mean? Like they weren't born it. You know what I mean? So somebody has authority some kind of way, and I think they were playing. We know they were playing our folks, really. Doing all kind of, man. All right, so in these camps, however, refugees found education and freedom. Northern missionaries attempted to inculcate their notions of proper work, health, and religious values to a population they presumed to be lazy, unhygienic, and licentious. What? That can't be true at all whatsoever. Now it said, what did it say? It said Northern missionaries attempted to inculcate their notions of proper work, health, and religious values to a population, right? They presumed. It ain't a damn fact now. Ain't that crazy? That presume don't mean fact, man. They presume just same thing as assume to be all these things. They say, but the camps also served as political schools as blacks learned about issues like emancipation and equal rights. Y'all see what's going on here? Y'all see what's going on here? They're being made and forced to be a part of a system they were not a part of. Okay? That is what's going on. It's a military authorities attempted to relieve overcrowding by resettling refugees on government farms. On government farm. They had their own farm now, but now they got government farm. It's like those near Hampton and Norfolk, but thousands remain dependent on upon government aid and unable to secure an independent livelihood. Ain't that something? After they just tore up their city, because they burnt up Hampton. If I'm mistaken, they burnt Hampton up too. So yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. Burnt that shit up and made us have to start begging them. And then on the back end, they took our land and all that. You know, they're supposed to be holding it for us. And they end up mishandling it, and the Congress allowed them to do it. Yeah. And right now, the trust and all this America being built up off our money and off our wealth. A lot of these new the reconstructions and shit, yeah, come from Negroes. All right, but let me keep going. They say, but camps also serve the say Norfolk livelihood. All right. So now let's get the white descendants. You know they were talking about and descendants, right? So we're gonna say descendants. I think that's how they say. I don't want to get for nobody to get confused. Like I'm saying descendants, like family members. Hell no. It say descendants, all right? Descendants. I think that's how you say that shit. Like you dissing somebody. So it's a white descendants, right? It's a Southern Unionist, often Northern born, fled to the North to escape Confederate persecution during the war. Vigilance committees warned prominent Unionists to cease their treasonous. Okay? Speeches and activities or face expulsion from the community. Let me read the whole sentence in cohesive way. It says vigilance committees warned prominent Unionists to cease their treasonous speeches and activities or face expulsion from the community. In addition to the general harassment, including violence and imprisonment, unions faced confiscation of their property under the Confederate Sequestration Act passed on August 30th, 1861. Okay, understand this now. So unionists face what? Confiscation of their property under the Confederate Sequestration Act passed August 30th, 1861. They say the act permitted authorities to confiscate all property owned by alien enemies residing in the Confederacy. Understand how they're wording this now. Alien enemies residing in the Confederacy. Not the Confederacy, but the aliens in it. Who are the aliens? Who are the foreigners? Who are the immigrants? Okay. Like those are some of the immigrants right there. It's a departure from the old homestead. All right. See these people. All right. Yeah. Let's continue. All right, let's do this right there. Let's say the act permitted authorities to confiscate all property owned by alien enemies residing in the Confederacy. Harassment prompts many white unionists to sell their property and relocate to the North early in the war. Now, again, you got to reconsider the white part. But understand to the layman, that means pale skinned people. And then they hit you with this picture to try to emphasize that point. But wait a minute, later on. It's a harassment. Okay, it went to the North after the war, right? Early in the war, my bad. Early in the war. So they ain't fighting, got gone, huh? They were just able to just traveling along. Right? It said George R. Herrick of Alexandria had moved from New England to Virginia in 1858. He fled to the north after the first Battle of Manassas. Now, this person called Manassas in the scripture, but that's neither here nor there. Right? Say the Battle of Manassas in July 1861. To escape persecution, he endured as a result of his vote against succession. Right? Saying July. Now, there's another one going on in 1861. That's when the Civil War supposed to have started. And it said July 1861, to escape persecution, he endured as a result of his vote against succession. Okay, so he didn't want to split. Okay, so he settled in Washington, D.C., where he secured a position on the police force. All right. In the later years of the war, whites became refugees to evade Confederate conscription. Hold up, wait a minute now. Say in the later years of the war, whites became refugees to evade Confederate conscription. They be looking at then y'all see these words as I go along. Let me see if I could just go right to conscription right quick. What conscription meant. Let's see if I can see it. Yes, I got a lot of shit pulled up for you. All right, conscripted. Okay, yeah, I mean what? They say enlist someone compulsorily, typically into the armed service, right? Somebody being recruited. So they want to go into the service or whatnot. Where I'm at, right here. All right. So they want to go into the Confederate Army, so they bent one. So Edwin K. Kane of Caroline County evaded the conscript guard until December 1863. Confederate authorities finally captured him and forced him into the army. Kane shot himself in the foot. Now, repeat that now, that people were being forced into the army. So that's another reason why people that probably was getting gone. Everybody probably like moving around. So, some of the Confederates were right. They said Kane shot himself in the foot to avoid Confederate service. But the conscript guard arrested him anyway and carrying one boot, which was unable to wear. Well, which I was unable to wear, right? That's quote. It said Confederate service, but the conscript guard arrested him anyway and carrying one boot, which I was unable to wear. Kane was sent to the front, nevertheless. Kane was sent to the front, nevertheless. He deserted the Confederate Army and secured transportation north from the Union Army. Kane's wife, Mary, sold all the perishable property. Now, they had property, they sold it. Understand this. They settled in a refugee community in Washington, D.C. So they say this. Refugees like Kane did not necessarily support the Union cause. They primarily did not want to support the Confederate cause by risking their lives on the battlefield. See, that's what I knew. As refugees in the North, white descendants or dissidents often fared better than blacks. Now, check out that word dissidents now. So y'all can figure what the hell is going on right here. Dissidents word. Should I get to that right quick? I should have put it up. Hold on, shit, right on. Give me 1 second, y'all. See if I can pull it up on that. There we go. Got that shit put up. All right, it said person who opposes official policy, especially that of an authoritarian state. Okay, understand that. Let me read it again. Y'all know I be reading and understand the first time. All right, it said person who opposes official policy, especially that of an authoritarian state. My bad. An authoritarian state. So you should want to know what an authoritarian state is. All right, but this is like a dissenter, like objective protester, free thinker, nonconformist, rebel, revolutionary, stuff like that. All right, this is the origin is. The origin is, check this out, is mid 16th century in a sense, differing in opinion or character, right? But then sitting apart, like you're sitting down. Okay. They say disagreeing from apart and sit. So apart, sit apart, split, something like that, right? All that shit. Disagreeing, like they're saying. Okay, disagree with motherfuckers. Get them out of here. So it sounds like the slaves, you know what I'm saying? The indentured servants that were down there during that time. That's what it looked like to me. All right. So let's see what we got going on and we get back to where I was at. All right, so we went to the descendant part, black refugees, where we at. Say white descendants had often fared better than blacks, while white was located in abandoned country band camps. White northern born refugees could capitalize upon family connections to secure livelihood through throughout the North. White Northerners were often more sympathetic to and accommodating of white refugees and black refugees. All right, go figure. Racism, basically, right? Hate, what it was. But that was the whole thing, trying to take over. Right, and now you got Confederates. Most Confederates became refugees in order to escape the Union Army and indignities of Union occupation. But some left their homes in response to food shortages, especially after 1863 and forcibly evacuation by Union or Confederate authorities at Fredericksburg in December 1862. The Battle of Fredericksburg. So there's another battle, right? Battle of Fredericksburg was fought December 11th through 14th. Say evacuation and location posed many challenges, which proved difficult, even impossible to overcome. Confederate civilians contemplated Union troops movements and attempts to predict which areas might be the safest, fearing that the Union Army might target their new locations as well. So I understand y'all was a whole bunch of wars going on during this time, and they just called collective the Civil War. They should say the Civil Wars, you know what I mean? Because that's basically what it was. They were attacking different little cities, different little pockets, different little groups, just attacking the infrastructure and all that, knocking down. That's what I'm trying to say, in different places. So as you can see, there's two wars that are supposed to be going on already, technically, or it had going on, during the same time supposedly the Civil War was going on. So that's what I'm thinking going on. So they're just attacking, they're just calling it different things, throwing you off and shit. So you're saying Battle of Fredericksburg, you still talking about Civil War. So the other battle they were talking about, you're still implicating the Civil War, right? So that's what's going on. So they like to split shit up and have you confused, have you thinking all everywhere, so you don't put that shit together. So now here, you got some Negroes, right? Like you got a Negro right here on the right side of the white girl. All right, so you got a white boy right here. Got a nigga who gun shit, doing their thing or whatever. So you got big old highs in the back. Probably brother highs right here. He driving a lady, but he got shade and shit. He chilling. He the man, I guarantee it. I don't know what the fuck is happening then. So I go back. All right, but yeah, you see all that going on. You got boy back there with gun and everything. You got white boy back there like he still like a mulatto or something. I don't know. I'm just saying. All right, but anyway, so y'all see what's going on with that. All right, let's continue. What's that? Family of Virginia? It's a family of Virginians leaving their home and going south. Okay, on the advance of General Patterson's army from Martinsburg. Where they going? They're going south. All right, because y'all gotta understand that all this war shit was going on. It was in the north. They trying to say it was all the way down and dirty. But no, they lying. They lying. All right. So I'm saying, they can't, like I said, they can't start destroying shit, and all that there. But anyway, let me keep going. So it said Confederate civilians, okay. It said troop movements to attempt to predict areas might be as safe as during target new locations as well. All right, they said somebody still talking to new locations and everything else. So this is where I'm at right now. Trying to go get through this. I can work through the rest of the stuff here right quick. It's gonna get deeper and deeper. All right. So it said they agonized about the timing of their moves, leaving with the first inkling of Union movement could be dangerous because rumors were often premature and even altogether incorrect. But waiting too long posed risk as well. Families who delayed sometimes found that a rapid Union approach could cut off their escape routes. Meanwhile, families who did not escape, make this a little bit bigger so y'all can see. It said families who did not excuse me, families who did not escape could not always find transportation for their possessions or afford it if they could. Any property left behind was lost to the Union Army, to the Confederate Army, and to looters, including their own slaves, right? Say, Union Army to Confederate, let me read it again. Say, any property left behind was lost to the Union Army, to the Confederate Army, and to looters, including their own slaves. Once in a new locale, refugees often could not secure an adequate livelihood. Farmers had to rent or buy farms or find employment to pay for their foodstuffs. Others struggled to find positions, often without the benefit of referencing or connections. Refugees face particularly difficult times in cities, which could not always support the influx of population. The population of Richmond doubled in a year of the war alone. Like that's something everybody came to Richmond. Now I said Petersburg, Fredericksburg, Danville, Staunton, and Charlottesville also served as major refugee centers. Urban areas, in particular, lacked the resources to feed and house refugees, resulting in charges of extortion and speculation by the newcomers. In addition, crowded conditions resulted in household tensions. Confederates Will and Betty Maury are a case in point. They had fled Washington, D.C. in June 1861 for Virginia. The Maurys eventually found refuge with their relatives and Magruder family in Richmond. The Magruders, however, sent them a notice to vacate in February 1863. Betty Maury complained that Cousin Height and Mr. McGregor scarcely speak to us. They have never asked where we are going or what we intend to do or expressed the highest interest in us. It is all a mystery. We cannot imagine what has caused the change. Maury's husband stayed in Richmond while she pregnant and feeling homeless. And Fordham set out Charles. I don't want to read out this regular goddamn story. But anyway, y'all see what's going on, right? It say, as experienced by white refugees. Let me see. Say something about white refugees. They say Maury's experience as a refugee provides a poignant demonstration of unfortunate breakdown in the communal and family ties during the war. Still, that the suffering as experienced by white refugees also became a powerful symbol of Confederate identity during the war years, rather. Okay, say Richmond. Okay, let's keep going, man. Keep it moving. You got the Confiscation Act, right? Say the Confiscation Act of 1861 authorized the confiscation of the Confederate property by Union forces. Property includes slaves, right? So we already know about that. We read about that. So now the first Confiscation Act passed August 6, 1861, same year, authorized Union the seizure of rebel property, and it stated that all slaves who fought with or worked for the Confederate military services were freed of further obligations to their masters. Were freed of further obligations to their masters. Who are these slaves? Who are these slaves we're talking about? Who are the rebels? Okay. Who are the real rebels? Okay. We'll keep going. All right. On I go. Now, confiscation. What's confiscation? So you understand? They be saying confiscate the land, this and this and that. So I say the action of taking or seizing someone's property with authority, a seizure, right? So a seizure, okay, I'm saying a real seizure, like you having a real seizure. Never thought about that. It's a impounding, commanding, requisitioning, appropriation. You know, I say we'd appropriated, or they appropriated us, right? They're dealing with land too, confiscation. They confiscated the land, appropriated us to their system, and they used our land and all our money and took all our money and stuff like that. And used that to build more infrastructure and stuff they was doing, you know, and to back what they're doing to run this country. And that's what they're doing right now, using our land as collateral and everything else, taking the resources, presuming themselves trustees and never giving the just due to the beneficiaries. That's really what's going on. It's crazy. They ain't letting us know flat out what's going on because technically we ain't supposed to be having to pay for nothing because everything that they're banking off of is our collateral. You understand that? So basically, it's like, hey man, we know we're working off your system and whatever we owe y'all is already charged to the game. So we allow y'all to live here, set up y'all system and do what y'all doing. And so just make sure y'all put the little tax to the side and all that down. And let that collect that little interest for this company. And off the land y'all using of ours, our taxes come to us. So just put that little bit up, hold on to that until we get ourselves together and go get it back from you. All right. To me, that's what's going on. I'm about to hurry get through the video because it's gonna be long as hell. I keep on, I got that long ass commentary. All right, but yeah, you see they were talking about the word sequestration and all that. So we got appropriation, expropriation, whatever. Okay, cool. So then we keep it moving. So we got this. It's a great word. Killing that shit. Let me see what it actually says. What's how you say this shit? That's sequester though.
Sequester.
Yeah, that's sequester and into it. But that's the breakdown because it says sequestrate. So it ended up breaking down to sequester. Let me see about that. I walked it down from here. So y'all can see what's going on. All right, let's see. So see, sequestration, that's what the word was.
Sequestration.
Right? Yeah, sequestration from the beginning. Then I just took it all the way down. So let's go into the reading. It said the action of taking legal process. Listen. It said the action of taking legal possession of assets until what? A debt has been paid or other claims have been met. So whatever the agreement was, it said the action of taking forcible possession of something, confiscation, an act of declaring something bankrupt, or declaring someone bankrupt, the act of making a general cut in government spending, the act of sequestering a substance. All right, so that's what I went to for root of the word. That led me to sequestrate. So sequestrate led me to sequester, right? It's another term for sequester. So I said they gave me anything in the etymology, in which they did. They said in late Middle English, in the sense, separate from general access. Separate from general access. Okay? They say from late Latin, they say giving up for safekeeping. You understand that part? Right there. Giving up for safekeeping. So at first they try to make it seem like it's, like just separated from the general, what basically did, but how they try to make it seem like they just took the land. But they take it. Supposedly they kind of made themselves trustees, so to speak. Gave up. They trying to imply that we gave it up for safekeeping because it wasn't nothing that we could do. We had to ran off. We had to go handle business and try to get stable, eating all that type of stuff. I guess they had us jot down of everything we own and shit. I don't know, but I'm just saying, just following what they're saying. All right, so hold on, let me get back up. Yeah. So then we go back to the next thing I had went to. Find that. So that's how I got to where I was just at. All right, sequester, right? So you get the sequester. And it says isolate or hide away. Then it says take it, legal advantage of the assets until they pay and all that thing. Okay, read it already. It says take forth possession of legal. It says legally place the property of a bankrupt in the hands of a trustee for division among the creditors. Okay, allotted property, all that kind of shit for the trustee. Okay, for the division among the creditors. It says from a chetic or other stable compound with an ion, atom, or molecule. Okay, excuse me. A general cut in government spending. All right, now. So sequester is late Middle English from Old French sequester or late Latin sequestrare. And I mean what? Commit for safekeeping. Okay. From Latin sequester. And it means what? Trustee. That's key, y'all. That's very key. So you got to take all the filter off of it. You know what I mean? And the further you keep going, and let you know what they really talking about. So they talk about being a sequester of the land, a trustee. In so many words, with their slick ass. The land was committed to them for safekeeping. Who committed their land to them for safekeeping? The brothers and sisters. Doing what? The Freedmen's Bureau, land management, and all that shit. Land anyway, yeah, y'all see where I'm going with this shit. Hell yeah. That's what's really going on, y'all. So how people be saying, hey man, you ain't supposed to be paying for nothing and all that type of shit. Or these the real reason why. So we gotta map that shit out. Articulate that shit in a way to where we can get what's ours. All right. So we got that figured out. Say general cut in government spending. Okay, we went through this and already. Authoritarian state. Y'all remember that? So when they were saying about the breaking off, you got to be an authoritarian state or something like that, breaking away from authoritarian state. The white dissidents were breaking away from authoritarian state. So authoritarian state broadly defined. Authoritarian state includes countries that lack civil liberties. They lack what? Countries that lack civil liberties, hence civil rights, all that type of shit, trying to get us in their system, civil war, such as freedom of religion, or countries in which the government and opposition do not alternate in power at least once following free elections. Okay? So, for the most part, I'm trying to say American culture. It's a whole nother shit. And about no free liberty, there's no civil liberties. No, you was a slave, and you was gonna always be a slave. That's how they felt about the people they paid their money for from them auctions. All right. So now we're talking about civil liberties. Excuse me again. I think that's good enough. I don't know why I went. I think I just read some civil liberties when I came here. So what is it about civil liberties? Very quick, so I'll keep it moving. So basically, civil liberties are guarantees and freedoms that governments can commit not to abridge either by constitution, legislation, or judicial interpretation. All right, so don't violate my rights type shit. Okay, civil liberties are freedoms guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, primarily from the First Amendment. They are natural rights, which are inherent to each individual, and so on and so forth. Okay. Civil liberty, freedom from arbitrary interference in one's pursuits by individuals or by government. The term is usually used in the plural, right? What I say civil liberty is the freedom from arbitrary interference in one's pursuits, no matter what it is, by individuals or by government. Okay, so let's keep going. So the sleeping is coming on now, people. I keep it moving. I think I went through conscription already. Yeah. All right. I don't know if I can read this or not. Maybe somebody just wanted to point out. But this article is from AEIO. My bad. AEON dot co. And it's I don't want to do my spot. Where's that at? Where is that shit at, G? Something key in here. Got to be more careful. I don't even see my spot. Got to be more careful. Oh yeah, shout out to my kinfolk. And delete. I don't see it. It's crazy. Okay, all right, I got it now. So let me go on back to the top, see what this is, show you what this is right quick. Show y'all. So keep moving. This is what caught my attention. They say others want only Africans, right? They say this. They were basically talking about the stage playing all that shit, doing blackface and all that type of stuff, and who actually became black. All right, say understanding, right, of race were malleable in the early modern writings. Exoticized characters can be described as dusky, dun, dark, sable, or black. They say depictions of an exoticized other weren't only of Africans, okay, but also Indians, Spaniards, Arabs, Indians, and my bad. The first one was Italian. It said Italians, Spaniards, what the fuck? It's like I'm looking at the Spanish and Arab at the same time. Spaniards. Anyway, they say Spaniards, Arabs, Indians, and even the Irish. Isn't that interesting? They added the Irish into the color black. Big game now. Why did they even say about Arabs now? Right? So the pictures of an exercised other weren't only Africans, but also, maybe I'm reading that wrong. Maybe they're saying, one, they were doing a dark face and all that shit for Africans, dark face for, okay, yeah, whatever, right? They say, consider the Dark Lady of Shakespeare's sonnets in Sonnet 130. He says, marriage son, okay, so on and so forth. That's what I want to point out about that part. All right, so let me keep going. So we got Confederate States. Where the Confederate States is at? They say South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Texas. All right, so it's 1861. So the Confederacy was formed on February 8, 1861 by 7 slave states. So they just formed in 1861. Just started recruiting like we at war right now. Come on, join the Confederate. Come on, join the Union. Man, I don't know. Really no doubt. All right, so there's the Freedmen's Bureau right here. The Freedmen's Bureau. They say the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen. Listen to what they're saying now. The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, Record Group 105, also known as the Freedmen's Bureau, was established in the War Department by an act of Congress on March 3rd, 1865. The Bureau was responsible for the supervision and management of all matters relating to the refugees and freedmen in lands abandoned or seized during the Civil War. Duties previously understand that now. That's what been holding on to these lands. You know, they entrusted them. They became the trustees. Hey, do it like this, do it like that, handle it like this, handle it like that. You know, we're gonna sit back and go collect our taxes. All right, type thing. Okay, that's what it sounds like to me. So the Bureau is responsible for the supervision and management of all matters that's the trustee position relating to refugees and freedmen and lands abandoned or seized during the Civil War. Duties previously shared by military commanders and U.S. Treasury Department of officials. In May 1865, President Andrew Johnson appointed Major Gen, Oliver Otis Howard as commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau. Okay, understand it now. They say Howard's headquarters were in Washington, D.C., but assistant commissioners, such assistant commissioners and agents, conducted the Bureau's daily operation in the former Confederate states, the border states, and the District of Columbia. Okay, but they say the former states, the border states, and the District of Columbia. Although the Bureau was not abolished until 1872, the bulk of the work was conducted through June 1865. It's 68. Okay, so on and so forth. Yeah, I got the whole gist of it. You know what I'm saying? See what's got down here. All right, so you see another house, the Office for Freedmen in Bedford, South Carolina. All right. Okay, so let's keep moving. Damn, I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Okay, this is the National Archives catalog, and this is where I forget why I even pulled this up. Let me go back one time. Oh, I said search more records for the Freedom Bureau. I get it. I clicked on it. All right, let's see what we got going on. Okay, so these are where the different Bureau of Refugees was at, right? Freedom and abandoned lands and all that. Everybody had land everywhere, right? So basically, in the southeast region and northeast. So it's a Delaware, right? You got that one in Delaware. You got one in Louisiana, Kentucky. You got District of Columbia. You got Virginia, South Carolina. I might repeat a couple. Let's see. I don't know what I would say. Tennessee, right? Louisiana, Mississippi. You got Mississippi and Highs, Arkansas. Then you got Alabama and Texas. Texas and Maryland. Arkansas, Texas, and Maryland. Okay. And these are, again, the people in the counts. Freedom from the Freedom Bureau, okay? So now you got these immigrant orphans right here, right? These folks. Right there. Got these orphans coming in. These orphans right here, right? What is this? They say there were so many homeless orphans in the 1800s. They were auctioned off to the highest bidder. Well, I'll be damned. What did it say? They say Ranker.com, talk about weird history. There were so many homeless orphans in the 1800s that they were being auctioned off to the highest bidder. Okay, as you can see, right? What the first thing they say? Well, yeah, first thing they say right here, say, why were there so many orphans? They say over 4.3 million immigrants moved to the United States between 1841 and 1860, huh? They say they traveled to America to find a better life and escape their homelands, which were often plagued with political unrest, poverty, and other overwhelming problems. Say some of these immigrants found themselves in overcrowded cities where getting a job was most difficult. Where getting a job was difficult, if not downright impossible. Not the least of their issues. Say cities where getting a job was very difficult, if not downright impossible. Say not the least of their issues. So ain't right. I ain't reading something right. But anyway, just keep going. Say reached the issue because people had a hard time because they didn't have members from extended family nearby to help raise their children. Everyone pitched in and worked to earn money, including kids as young as 6 years old. Desperate men took dangerous jobs and were often killed in their line of work. Women and children were forced to do whatever they could to survive. They say, but it was common for the mothers to die at a young age because they lived in filthy homes and concentrated typhoid and contracted typhoid and flu and other diseases. Other parents abandoned their children because they had no money or because they were addicted to drugs, alcohol. As a result, many children would end up as orphans. All right, y'all see how this go. Okay, go for train, transfer. All right, go train right there. What the fuck is this right here? All right, so you got this right here. Say photo, U.S. National Archives and Records Administration. Okay, so they say were kids auctioned off to farmers and craftsmen. They say, remember, man, they say kids were auctioned off to farmers and craftsmen who needed them to work. They say Children's Aid launched its first program train. Program train. Y'all know I'm gonna sleep y'all. They say Children's Aid launched its first organ train. Yeah. Y'all know how to say you get stupid, your brain start working? Oh, that motherfucker real slow now. Children's Aid launched its first orphan. Orphan, my nigga. God damn. Orphan train in October of 1854. 1854, right? The train traveling from New York City to Dowagiac. I don't know. I guess that's Minneapolis. I don't know. They said carried about 45 homes children. Carried about 45 homes of children. When they arrived at this distinction, local farmers and craftsmen bid on the kids in an auction. Hold on, what did it say now? They say when they arrived at their destination, local farmers and craftsmen bid on the kids in an auction. Why don't nobody never tell us about this? They say the families took the children home where they worked in fields and in other capacities. A total of approximately 250,000 poor and abandoned children were relocated from the East Coast to the Midwest during the 1850s and 1920s. All right, so I see some with drunk steeds and all that type of stuff. Orphanages were overcrowded, and kids were kicked out at age 14. All right, y'all. All your fortunate orphanages, I mean now, kick them out at age 14. Gotta get how they live. Say orphanages provided little food and education and were bad for children's development. Okay, that's what you folks. These are orphanages. All right. It's a single working mother were often forced to use baby forms, which sold newborns or waited for them to die. Right? It says single working mothers were often forced to use baby forms, okay, which sold newborns or waited for them to die. Okay. Most orphanages did not accept infants or young children. Y'all hear me? Larger cities had foundling hospitals. That should sound like foundling hospitals. They say such as the New York Founding, which opened in 1869 to save babies who were abandoned on the city streets. That's some shit. That what Tupac was showing. Brendan got a baby. They say to save babies, right, who were abandoned on the city streets. You know, some people used to leave babies at the damn doors. Christmas gift back then, man. This, goddamn. They tried to make it out of it, like all this stuff was going on over there, but that shit was going on right here. Where they're getting their babies away and shit. Tell you, man, people had nothing going on. They say single working mothers were often forced to turn to baby forms to care for their newborns. Newborns dropped off at infant institutions often died because they often arrived in poor health with disease such as scarlet fever, diarrhea, and whooping cough. Foster moms would nurse the infants and either wait for them to die or they would sell them. Man, kids, y'all, they being sold. Who would know? They said almshouses turn children into indentured servants. Okay, here we go. Almshouses turn children into what? Indentured servants. Okay, they say as the number of immigrants in Florida. Shit. Hey, y'all, I'm really sleepy. And I'm really pissed too. I'm getting sleepy because it's some good shit. I want to get through this part because that's going to match up with some shit I was just reading, right? They say as the number of immigrants in America continues to grow, make this bigger. Yeah, all right. That shit too big. That shit, let's slide this over. Say, as the number of immigrants in America continue to grow, cities had increasing difficulty supporting their populations. Almshouses help provide food and shelter to less fortunate. However, they struggle to meet the needs of an indigent population and were often mismanaged and corrupt. Philadelphia almshouses decided to burn out children as a way of making money. Kids and young adults became indentured servants who were supposed to be taught skills and given some education in exchange for their hard labor. No money, education, y'all. Instead, unfortunately, many abused the system. Some kids were taken from families without their parents' permission. Some kids were taken from their families without their parents' permission. Children were often placed in areas far away from their families, so it would be difficult for them to run away. And so parents would not know that their kids were mistreated. Okay? They say, so it sounds like kind of like saying like grooming and shit. Anyway, man. They said Charles Loring Brace became the pioneer of the foster care system. Who? Charles Loring Brace became the pioneer of the foster care system. Charles Loring Brace was an ordained minister. He was disturbed by the number of children in New York City whose parents were criminals, alcoholics, and entirely unfit to raise their children. Many of these kids became orphans and turned into what were known as street Arabs. Okay, who joined gangs and committed acts of violence. Some of these children would get arrested and be sent to jail to serve time with adults. Reverend Brace believed the solution was to place these children with Christian families. In 1854, he transported 46 boys from New York to Michigan by train, accompanied by an agent. Upon arrival, the agent went to a local church and told the community members that the children needed good homes. All of the children were placed with families within a week. Okay. So, now understand that, y'all, they were giving away children left and right. So a lot of these folks, they don't even know where the history come from. They foster children. They don't know where they come from at all whatsoever. And a lot of them don't even know that, is what I'm trying to say. They don't even know that they don't know where they're from, for real. This shit deep. All right, so I said there were so many homes from okay. I not to high bill. Okay, read it already. All right. So East Indian immigration. These East Indian people right here. Okay, so it's a piece I want to try to catch. So I said overall, where the English-speaking Caribbean is concerned, substantial numbers of indigenous Indians were imported. Based on statistical evidence, Guyana was the recipient of 283,909 East Indian immigrants up to the termination of the system in 1917. It's a Trinidad 143, Jamaica 36,000, Grenada 3,000, St. Vincent 2,000, right? 4,000, so on and so forth. Okay, but these are to the colonies. That's what we're talking about. All right. So now, these are the people right here. So these Negroes, these the Indian people, huh? They look just like a lot of us. Just saying. See that? These are local people. Okay. Indians that was here. Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's us, East Indians. You know, hey, yeah, the West Indies, it's us right here in America, the East Indies. That's how I'm saying that. Look at the attitude and everything, the whole demeanor is on some shit, how we look. The whole demeanor. Check them out now. Check them out. All right, what y'all see, whatever that's going on. So this is Gunyonville article. That was the East Indian immigration, 1838, 1937. East Indian immigration, 1838, 1937. The Guyana Chronicle, the nation's paper, right? So it's some kind of newspaper or something, I guess. All right, so let's keep moving. Now the word contraband. We already kind of went through that on another video. Contraband and its origin. We're dealing with a proclamation of a ban. A ban of, against a proclamation. Against, right? Because against and ban. Okay, against the ban, against proclamation. All right. Proclaim. The origin of proclaim, right? Is cry out, to shout. It's to claim some shit. So proclamation. Dealing with proclaiming and shit. Dealing with claiming. Speaking something into existence. All right, there's a proclamation there. Emancipation. Proclamation. Emancipation in its origin means transfer as property. Well, I'll be down. Okay? So the proclamation, the declaration, yeah. The declaring, I mean, declaring, and some shit. Transfer this property. That's what they transferred it to the U.S., man. I'm telling y'all, they the slave shit during this time. So you got property, what's the origin of property? So it's admitting of the case, so forth. It means one's own. One's own. Right? Then say particular. It's a God like what? A man that have his own. God blesses a man to have his own. That's what it says. All right. Well, I don't know what this is. Okay, proper. Hey, I'm about to crash out on y'all. It's a one's own special, right? One's own special. We're talking about proper. Property. Can't transfer property, excuse me. A possession whose ownership changes or lapses. A little more to it than that. It's that when the owner transfers property by deed. So they say, but y'all already know it's in the trust. And that's what we transfer property, all that type of shit that you wrote shit up. Fake the trust. All right, say President Abraham Lincoln issued the Massachusetts Proclamation in 1863. Starting to look like they're setting us up. Like they set us up, they went on ahead and whacked them. Or they know he did something. All right, we already know slavery and all that shit. Yeah, go into all that. But yeah, that's good enough right there, man. I hope that was enough. My bad, I'm getting sleepy right now. But y'all have to get the hell up out of here, man. Y'all have a good one. That was the end. Peace. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Yeah, I did this video about a few days ago, or whatever. So I was just running it through. It was like shit about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was tired of them motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? But I just kind of wanted to clear up everything that I was intending to put out. To me, it didn't flow cohesively as I thought. I was thinking in my brain. This was my point, right? My whole point was in this whole video, right, was to show that when they said slaves was going into the north, trying to be free from slavery or whatever, crossing the Union lines, I'm saying they are refugees. That's what I'm saying. Refugees. And when we talk about refugees, we're talking about people that were forced out of their domain, like forced from their own homes. I'm saying that the indigenous people, aka African Americans that was here, we had our own properties. We ran these cities. We ran these towns, the Virginias, the South Carolinas, all that. You know what I mean? You can look into the records and it's proven that we had a lot of property as they stated, because if that's the case, we wouldn't have no property and stuff like that in the Freedmen's Bureau. You know what I'm saying? So that lets you know right there that we had ownership of the land. So when I was showing about the white dissidents and all that, when they were showing that they were unionists, allies, you may as well say, or whatever, trying to get from under the contracts that we bought them under, because as they were clearly showing with the kids, with the orphans and all that type of stuff, that they were being auctioned off. They said we were being auctioned off as being slaves, but that's not true, obviously, right? They were being auctioned off, and it's documented they were being auctioned off as kids and everything. We was raising them up. We raised them up in our families and stuff. We took care of them, gave them our names and everything. You know what I mean? And then you get this Emancipation Proclamation, right? After they burn up all the cities, all our cities and everything, causing us to have to flee, and all the so-called Confederate states or whatever, as I named during the video, he had all the Confederate states or whatever that was all our people. And so they were burning up all our cities all around town, which they was called the Civil War, but it was just war on all the infrastructure of our people. But they was calling them different names, like you had the Battle of Manassas, you had a battle of this and a battle of that. But all this was in the same time frame of the Civil War, so it's really called like the Civil Wars. So now you have all these orphans and all that, parents, children, man, woman, child, all that shit. Remember that the Man's Act had to stop white female prostitution back then or whatever because they were so loose. You know what I mean? You heard in the article where it said they was basically do whatever. You know what I mean? They do strange things for a piece of change. You know what I mean? But okay, so now 1865, right? They get the federal bureau, whatever. They confiscate our lands and all. Not necessarily confiscate. We put the land, we get them the lands, whatever, to hold it for safekeeping and all that shit. How they finessed us, saying it was safekeeping and all that. So they became the trustees, right? And then we also set up the Freedmen's Bank. So we set up the Freedmen's Bank. You know, that was gold and silver back then. And of course, y'all already know what happened with that, to shut all the banks down and all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? And then they put 13, 14 Amendment and all that. And so it caused us to be a part of the United States Corporation. So when they caused us to be a part of the corporation, that put us in subject to jurisdiction. So they would say that it was a authoritarian state or whatever that the white descendants was under, and they didn't like it, and they were basically protesting against it. Authoritarian state meaning a person who don't have civil liberties and all that stuff because we were not a part of that system, right? We had our own system going on. So that is the case with that. But that's how they were able to force us into being a part of their civilization, to place us under their jurisdiction, because they couldn't arrest us, they couldn't do nothing to us down there. Like, we really had our own thing going, you know what I mean? Literally. So when they placed us under the jurisdiction, that's when they were able to start arresting us and all this type of stuff, you know what I mean, as debt bondage, you know what I mean, convict leasing, you know what I mean, so on and so forth. That when they started developing the prison system in the 1890s, man, it was a lot of things going on, you know what I'm saying? So that's how they got us in the mix, is what I'm trying to say at the end of the day, you know. So that was to make a long story short, and to show for sure that these orphan children were literally being auctioned off, as they said we were being auctioned off. But no, it's a real deal. It's a real thing. So we see a group of pictures with our ancestors on there, and then they have a sprinkle of white kids or whatever, so to speak. Not even, not to be racist or none of that shit. I'm just saying, when you see other motherfuckers, 9 times out of 10, they were orphans, and we were raising them up, you know. So yeah, man, I just kind of wanted to put that out there, man, and clear that up. But yeah, man. One, peace. Thank you. Oh, my bad. Thank all y'all for coming out, man. For the people who came out, to check me out, see what I was talking about. I'm gonna shout you out right quick. You know what I mean? Shout out to Big Dog Philly. You know what I mean? For letting people to know to subscribe to the channel and all that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I appreciate that, bro. Shout out to Indigenous Fifth Ace. You know, when you put a exclamation mark, like, hey, like what's happening or something, I guess, right? So shout out to Sister Alma, man. You know what I mean? Y'all go check her out. Y'all already know she be bringing them good vibes to the table. You know what I mean? Nice, cool, relaxed. You need a peace of mind, go over there and chill out with her. You know what I'm saying? Got the House of Nathan in the building. He was saying salute wisdom. Big Dog Philly, OG, and Sister Alma. Yeah, shout out House of Nathan, man. Appreciate that. Then we got my boy Mind's Eye in the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? 100, the cap. Hope all is well. Yes, sir. All is well. That's right. All is wellness. You know what I mean? I got no other choice but to be. Right? Then we got a slow burn, the conversation in the building. Let's say Priest Brother Wisdom. Peace, sister. Thank you for coming through, checking me out. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. But I'm gonna upload another one. Run some more about that orphan thing. Just try to do my little piece or whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this one down. Why, goddamn it, it's already boring as fuck. You know what I'm saying? So I already know I gotta go and shut this motherfucker off so it don't be too long. I had to kind of build up, man. Because I ain't trying to necessarily entertain nobody, but hey, I can be entertaining. But I'm basically just trying to get people the information the way they can just really understand what the fuck going on. You know what I'm saying? And just hear that shit for what it is. So it don't be a whole bunch of rhetoric in between. But yeah, I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? So just pay attention. If you don't catch nothing else, catch what they call it, the conclusion or the summary or what I just got finished saying. You know what I mean? To understand what my whole concept was behind what I was doing. I went with the Synchronization Act. and all that type of shit. How it's showing that the so-called Confederate lands that was taken, you know what I mean, were us, our lands, the Confederate people. But like I said, they had them antagonized or the northern, the southern unionists, you know what I mean, the people that were going along with the North, the one that got gone or whatever, agitating the situation and shit like that. You see what I'm saying? And perpetrating as Confederates. So they came and took our land, pretending like it was their shit they were trying to take. You see what I'm saying? A whole bunch of bullshit, a whole bunch of finesse game. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, just catch the summary or whatever. And y'all people what I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about? But yeah, peace to everybody.